Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Happy to be a part of it.
great. So I'll give you a little background. I think I told you a little bit already, but we have two trainings going currently. We have a technology sales cohort, which is about 10 to 12 members. And then we also have a technology cohort. We have about 12 going through A+ certification and another dozen going through Security Plus certification coursework. So right now we're in the learning phase. We're going through the trainings and the modules and getting the certifications knocked out. And then in January, we're going to be placing them into OJTs with different companies.
Perfect.
So Shawn, I have a question. Does USAA still set up that like basic training type situation for people when they onboard, where they bus them to they run them through like the in-processing and stuff that they used to do?
Well, we do have a 3-day orientation. We do it, and we actually do it both virtual and in San Antonio. But we are expanding that to all of our hub locations.
That's awesome. I just remember I used to do commercial sponsorship for one of the bases, and the rep that would always come would talk about how they did a very good job of helping those who join the company who with no military experience really understand what it is we go through in the military. Definitely makes you guys unique.
Yeah, that still happens, and it's needed. We are, our company is focused on taking care of our service members, and only about 25% of our company now is veterans. So that means 75% of the folks that work for us don't actually know a whole lot about what's going on in the, for a military service member that's transitioning out. So it is a very good orientation.
Yeah. So do you have numbers? Are they decreasing of active duty or prior active duty service members in the company?
So we are definitely adding more. So we actually have a big push that started this year going into next year and 2024 to try to get our total service member and spouse, military spouse numbers up to around that 40% mark.
Okay. That's great. As a spouse, I definitely appreciate that initiative.
Yeah, my wife is actually going through a USAA military spouse program for the insurance claims and all that.
Well, that's awesome. Is she enjoying that process, Mario?
Yes. So right now, I think she's studying for, I get one of the certs or something, and then she doesn't start until January.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, because we just moved back to San Antonio, so she needed a new job.
Oh, and that is a stellar company to work for. I mean, there are very few companies you can call and say, I've moved to South Korea. I need car insurance, or I need to change my car insurance, we didn't have to explain. They just, switched us right over from, from Georgia to, South Korea. No questions. Otherwise, explaining that, you have to explain there's two Koreas, and no, we don't live in the bad Korea. We live in the
All right, awesome. So I guess it's about time. If everybody's back, let's go ahead and get started. So Shawn from USAA, can you just give us a little bit about your background, your transition out of the military? Because I know you're a veteran as well. And then just kind of give us a little bit about your current position and what you do to help service members at this current point.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very happy to be a part of this. Anytime I can help military service members and spouses transition, I am open to it, because I'll be very blunt. Transitioning from the military to corporate or civilian life, it sucks. And that's probably the best word I can use, because it's hard. And as much as many of us want to get out of the service and hop right back into civilian life, it's completely different. So everything we've been trained to do is different. So you gotta think about that. So a little bit about me. I did 15 years in the United States Army. I started as a 92 Fox. Well, way back then it was 77 Fox, but I refueled aircraft. And as far as transitioning, there's not a lot of opportunity to do that and make a decent living on the civilian side. So I had other skills. I also did a little bit of recruiting in the Army, and that was my transition. So when I got out of the military, I had no idea direction. And there was a great tool that I found, which was kind of new at the time. It was called LinkedIn. And I would tell everybody here, if you do not have a LinkedIn page, you need to create one today, because you're going to tell your work story of what you can bring to a team on that page, and you're going to start connecting with folks in that space. It is also a good way to find a mentor that's out there on the civilian side, who can say, hey, you might want to do this, this, or this. Again, I cannot say enough about that tool. Some people don't like to use it because you're giving up some information, PII information out there. But if you use any kind of other social media, you definitely want to use this one, because it will help you in your transition. So anyway, I made that transition. It was not easy, and I transitioned out of the military into a recruiting role, and from that recruiting role, my soft skills that I brung from the military helped me grow pretty quickly. I moved into a talent acquisition management role for many years, and never even really thought about USAA as an employer, even though I was a member forever. They reached out to me, and I've been with USAA for a little over a year now, close to 2, and it has been the best decision I've ever made in a corporate setting. So I tell everyone I meet, you're going to hear a lot about culture when you make the change, about corporate culture and how they treat their people. You don't really hear a whole lot about it while you're in the military. I know it's new and things are changing. You do hear a little bit about it, but it does make a huge difference in a corporate setting, and going to a company who knows about their military members, service members, and their spouses, and ways to work with them makes a huge difference. So again, USAA has been pretty great to work with. In the chat, I shared my email address and my LinkedIn page. So after today, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. Everybody who has a LinkedIn page or creates one, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm connected to roughly 20,000 folks in the industry, many military transitions. So I can either point you in the right direction or point you to someone who might be able to help in a mentor status. And here at USAA, we have several programs exactly for transitioning military. So it's also a great, a great thing I can put out there. So I am going to start as a recruiter and a military member about this transition process. And again, it's up to you what you want to do. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything, but I'm going to give you what I see happens the most is our military service members and even their spouses don't really attack the job the way they need to. And the first thing is, of course, is your resume. I want everybody to look at their resume, and if it looks like you're trying to apply to another military position, then your resume is wrong. And I say that in all honesty because many, uh, I would say 80% of the resumes I see from transitioning military members are using large acronyms, military acronyms, using rank and status in the resume, and it doesn't transition. So I'm one of few military members who is a recruiter who can see those resumes and say, "Oh yeah, that you've done this, this, and this," but those who haven't been in the military, they don't know, and they look at it and be like, "Yeah, that doesn't fit." Click, move to the next one. And I say that and to give you the best chance, because recruiters, when they look at resumes, they spend about 8 seconds on a resume on the first look. 8 seconds. So if your resume doesn't catch their eye in that 8 seconds, you're in the pile that does not get seen. And your only mission right now is to try to get seen and heard by as many people as you want to, or you possibly can, so that you can have a chance at moving into a role. So I say that make sure your resume does not look like you're applying to another military role. And if you're looking for a military contractor role, keep your resume as it is. But if you're looking into the corporate world, you need to start looking at the language. And if you need help with that language, find the help. I know there's a lot of folks out there that are doing this, and that's one of the reasons I really put LinkedIn is to find that military mentor to help through that process. But look at it. When you're looking at rank and when you talk to someone, you don't want to say, "Yeah, I did this or this for the colonel," or "I did this and this for the sergeant major." It doesn't transition. Say, "I reported to senior leadership." What's senior leadership? That says a whole lot. It can go all the way out there. But when you're talking about rank, think about that rank if it would be in a corporate setting. So my example is if it is your division or brigade leader, would that be a senior VP in a corporate world or a VP? That's how you would want to talk about that person, is a VP in this role, or a senior leader that would be equal to a VP, or a director level. Try to get your communication to completely away from the military, and it's the hardest thing to do because that's what you're used to doing, right? Is doing that, but really try to sit down and make that change. I tell everyone, use a friend or a spouse and give them the 30-second elevator speech. And if you can do that without using any military acronyms or titles, then you pass the test for the conversation, and just make sure your resume looks the same. So that's my little spiel. I'll stop there and I'll let people, ask questions as they have them.
Yeah, thanks, Shawn. That is really good advice. I know you gave me that advice about a month ago, and since I've made edits to my resume, I've definitely gotten more responses for sure. So thank you. That does work. I can attest to that myself. But open up the floor. Any questions, please ask.
Sir, I got one here. I know you said LinkedIn was a big thing, but to what do you owe, to what other things do you owe your success to, like right now, currently, as you are for your job?
So I have never actually applied to any other job outside of my first one when I was transitioning due to LinkedIn. I networked. So I wasn't applying to, 30, 40 different jobs out there. I networked and they said, "Hey, apply to this role." I applied, I had an interview, I moved forward, or at least I had conversations. But I wasn't applying blindly. And that's why, I use LinkedIn as a tool. So I use it to network And honestly, that's your best source of finding a role is networking, because you're going to start talking to those leaders that are looking for the roles, and either they're going to connect with you or they're not. And then if they are open to conversation, they're also going to say, hey, I don't know that you necessarily fit for what I'm looking for, but talk to this guy or this gal, because they are looking for someone like you. And again, it is such a great tool.
You said connect with leaders. Who would those leaders be, like recruiters or?
Oh, so great question. When you're using LinkedIn, and I know the previous person when I came on was talking about IT work. So if you're looking to get into the IT industry, find those top 5 or 6 companies that you want to look for. Find the leaders in those companies and start reaching out to connect with them. And of course, you want to connect with the recruiter as well, because the recruiter is going to be the one who kind of gets those conversations started. But yeah, reach out. Find the military veterans that are in those companies. Reach out. Say, hey, I'm transitioning. Can you help? Can you help me get connected to this person or this person? Can you help me start a conversation?
I'm writing all this stuff down, by the way. I'm not just looking away.
Oh yeah, no, you're I do this generally about 6 hours a day, so no, I'm completely okay. I understand the look away to take notes and look at other screens.
So you're saying help me start the conversation. So you could just say that directly, like verbatim.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the best entrances that you can say is, hey, I spoke to, we'll say me, Shawn Fletcher, and he thought it would be a great idea for us to connect. And that way you're using me as a resource. I'm connected to about 20,000 folks. So you already have an entrance or a way into the conversation. And then you continue. I'm a transition military member. This is what I bring. Wanted to see if you had some time to connect, maybe point me in the right direction. And most of the time it's going to be a yes.
Hi, Shawn. I just wanted to ask if you knew of any like programs in the San Antonio area for like cybersecurity or something for USA for software engineering.
So I don't work on the IT team, but I can tell you that we always have cyber roles open and available. I would tell you to go to our website for sure and look for it. Just type in the area and what you're looking for. There should be some that populate. Definitely take a look. Before you apply, again, one of those things I would tell you to do is have a resume that is directed to what you're wanting to apply for. So when you're looking at that job description, what are the keywords in that job description? Those keywords need to be in your resume 3 to 5 times. What is the education they're looking for? Do you have that education? Are you working on that education? If so, make sure it's on your resume so the recruiter can see it. And it's really just tying those things in, because again, when it comes down to it, the recruiter is going to look for the best candidate for the role. You need to make sure that you're at least seen, and then you can't be heard unless you're seen. So that's, again, it comes down to your resume as that first step.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Shawn, Brandon Kobe here. Thanks for coming and talking with us today. It all makes a difference, especially, we keep continuing to hear these stories from Army refueler to top executive in USA. It's awesome to hear. It can happen. It can be everybody's dream. For those of us that are looking at a lot of different areas, and somebody from my experience background in the military, explosive ordnance disposal, and we're breaking into maybe tech sales, or I'm going for a dream job maybe with the Texas Rangers and become part of their front office, would you tailor your title? Like, for example, you're saying, hey, don't go in there and say senior master sergeant, superintendent for the last X amount of years. Would you tailor to each one, like maybe front office executive for Rangers, or on the sales side, front office senior sales rep, something like that? I don't know.
I absolutely would. Absolutely would. So if you gotta try to really kind of think outside of that military box and what your job title is. How does that, your soft skills, not every job is going to relate. So what skills do you bring? So, what I see the most is operations management, project management, program management. Project program management works really well on transitioning into a lot of different roles, especially in sales side. But yeah, I absolutely would tailor your resume, your titles to what it is that you're going into.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I'm just kind of a little worried of overselling the resume and not being as truthful, not keeping it.
Yeah. So yeah, no, you bring up a very good point. You absolutely want to be truthful, but you also have to be able to put your experience into a language that is understood on the civilian side, because again, what we did in the military for a lot of us does not transition. And so we have to start using those soft skills that we are experts in, that are very valuable to the civilian population, especially the job market, and using those to our best use. So, TAPS is, I see so many resumes that the folks is like, well, this is what I got out of TAPS. Well, that TAPS resume looks like you're applying to be the same thing in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. It doesn't transition. So, as much as I like that resource for TAPS, they have to be able to, mold your experience into a resume that works in the corporate world.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question about applying to larger companies, Shawn. Do the same rules apply with larger companies as opposed to smaller companies with connecting? Is there different challenges there? I know from my own experience with the job listing pages with larger companies, there's so many to sort through. It's so hard to find out information on them. It's happened several times that a recruiter's reached out to me because I submitted for a position. He's like, oh, that position's been gone for 2 months. Like, it's already been filled. I'm like, well, why am I even applying to a position at this point? Is there any different strategies to combat that kind of situation?
Well, yeah. So I will tell you, if you are applying to very large corporations, actually medium to large size corporations, they all have applicant tracking systems, and that's kind of what drives their job boards. So any large company, and I'll use USAA as the example, is you can sign up for alerts, for job alerts. So you say, hey, I'm looking for this, or this job. And anytime that one opens, you get an email that says, hey, this job just opened. So when you do that, if you actually apply within the first 48 hours of that job alert, you have a lot better chance of being seen. These medium to large size companies get hundreds of applications for each role. Most of the time, they're only opened for about 7 days before they stop posting. And if it's something that another example here is, if you apply to a job that gets 500 applications, the recruiter's probably only going to go through the first 2 days of applications, which might be a couple hundred people, to make a selection for a candidate slate. So if you didn't apply within those first couple of days, you might not get seen. And that's for any medium to large size company.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
Anybody else got questions? Cool. I have another question for you, actually. It's a little more personal. So, I have two versions of my resume. I have a version that's more graphically appealing, and then I just have like a plain Word document style. Certain companies request like a plain doc style, and some, leave it up to whatever. On the recruiting end, is there any difference in the style of or the formatting of your resume that you can talk to?
So it's really recruiter specific for me. I just want the plain doc. I just want to be able to find and see your information. Again, we go through so many applications or resumes each day. We actually have, each recruiter has a specific order they like to see things. Like for me, it's, hey, I want to see a summary of your skill set, your education, and your experience. And I'm looking for keywords. So those four things. And if I can see all those four things pretty quickly, I put you in the pile for a deeper dive. And then I have my small pile of a deeper dive, and I have my large pile that didn't meet. And then from, each role, a recruiter might review, I'm going to say 100 different resumes plus. It could be more. It's really dependent upon the job. But yeah, I also tell everybody to have about 5 different versions of your resume. And you're like 5. Well, you apply probably to 5 different kinds of roles. If you only applying to one specific type of role, then the one resume is fine. But if you're applying to different kind of roles, you need to have a resume that's specific to that kind of role. Because it's not telling the story. And the umbrella resume, which is that one that captures all your experience that doesn't really align to anything specific, or is not a thing anymore. You want your resume to be specific.
I have another kind of question about like the size of the company as far as vetting resumes. You mentioned that you actually have the resumes and you're sorting them into piles. Does USAA, or how common is it now to use automated software to look for keywords?
I was at a mid-sized company prior to USAA, and I can tell you that any company that has an applicant tracking system where they have a big job board, it is common. So when I see the resumes, they're already ranked.
Okay.
Right. So there's a ranking system based off of the number of words that keywords that you use in your resume. So it is absolutely a thing.
So that words in the resume, what did you mention that we had to look for, like, as far as that job? Obviously, I think one of the things that was mentioned before was you had to look at the application and then try to match the words to that. Is that what you or?
That's correct. So the job description that you're looking at, or thinking about applying, you're looking for the keywords in that job description, and the keywords are actually coming from the hiring manager. They're telling you what they're looking for. They usually mention those keywords 3 or 4 times in their job description, which means you want to use it 3 or 4 times in your resume.
Hey, Shawn, I have another question.
Sure.
Does USAA have a particular gap within your company that is just hard for you to hire, whether sales, IT, or a specific area?
I won't say there's anything that's hard for us to hire. It's, each hiring manager is going to be a little different. So it really is dependent upon the hiring manager. So it's a relational thing. So if the hiring manager is talking to the recruiter and says, "Hey, recruiter, I want this, this, and this, and this," and the recruiter doesn't present him this, this, or this, it makes the process go very long. You'll be able to tell easily if you look at a job that's open and it's been open, it says, we'll say 90 days, then you know there's an issue. There's a reason that job has been open for 90 days. Generally, it isn't because of applicant flow. It's because the recruiter's not providing the hiring manager with the person they want to see.
Okay, I'm only asking because when I do general job searches and stuff like that, especially on the IT side, I see manager, senior, you know, I see a lot of upward executive types. And then down at the bottom, maybe one or two entries. So it kind of seems like the market's pretty flooded on the entry side though, and it seems to be harder for finding those senior members.
Yeah, so you really, I'm going to kind of, the executive level memberships or positions are generally never advertised. There is a team that just looks for those folks. That is called direct sourcing. The mid-level leadership is advertised, but it might not be advertised on, we'll say, like Indeed or ZipRecruiter. It might only be advertised on LinkedIn and other different different job boards that supports more roles like that or more folks like that. So it is really different based off of the role and how it's advertised.
By executive, you mean like C-suite or what would you say?
Well, so for like USAA, we generally never advertise for a VP level or above, and a VP level or above, you know, my example for military is going to be like that company commander or battalion staff officer and above is what I would consider a VP. A director is usually the highest level that you'll see advertised for USAA. Director would be our, you know, your senior NCOs or junior officers.
And what would you have to do to get into those fields? Like, let's say you wanted to get into that field, what would you have to do?
Get in what field?
Like to get into the executive position?
Well, you'd have to be able to show that you have that experience to get into that position. So if you have it, you know, you're not going to get, and again, I'll use USAA as the example, is they're not advertising those executive positions. If you're looking, wanting to be qualified for one of those executive positions, you're going to have that experience, and it's going to have to be out in the World Wide Web so they can find you.
So would they ask for like a portfolio or something like?
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But how would you start then? Like if you have no experience, you're like, hey, like I'm gonna start.
Well, yeah. So if you don't have any experience, you're not going to don't expect an executive level role. Yeah, that's just not going to happen.
No, but how would you like? Would you have to know how you would climb to that? Like because obviously somebody has to start somewhere.
Yeah. So, you know, coming out of the military, you're going to offer more than entry level experience based off of your soft skills. So you're going to look for those mid-level roles. You're going to continue education. You're going to continue growing. So you come into a role, you know, meet we call it the MINS, but the minimum qualifications. What do you need to get to the next one? It's probably additional education, different certifications, and things like that. I work in primarily risk and compliance areas, and the analyst 2 and analyst 1 roles, which are those mid-level roles, generally they do not have the risk certifications to move to a senior or lead level role. That's what they have to do, is get that additional education.
Yeah, I mostly just asked that because I've seen in military firsthand, like people who, well, I don't know, we just consider toxic leadership. And like, I'm just like, man, like, I'm pretty sure like, some people, me in particular, think they probably do a better job. So than that, I don't know. It just comes to my head, like, you may not need like whatever they have. It's like to be doing something like that, like you just might need certain types of skills and you might just be good at it.
Yeah, I
don't
would
know.
tell you it makes it a little difficult to, just to be seen if you don't have some of that education or certifications to get going. So that it is a large part of it. Continued education is absolutely a part of it.
Sweet.
So a PMP build did like certification to go for a mid-level
Absolutely.
executive?
So PMP process certifications, any of your project and process improvement certifications are absolutely golden in the corporate world. USAA has project managers and program managers open and available almost all the time. They require those certifications. And there's a lot of them. There's the black belt, green belt certifications. Anything that for project or program or process improvement, I would definitely say is good, and it's good in both IT and non-IT roles.
So is there a preference to those Six Sigma certifications, the belts versus PMP versus
So
something?
well, if you're going into program project management, you definitely want to have the PMP. And then for the program side and process side, there's a ProSci certification that is very popular with in the corporate space. When you're looking at the Six Sigma, the black belt and green belt are generally the most popular outside of IT. But yellow belt is also pretty popular inside IT. So it really just depends on where your focus is, but all of those are great certifications to have. I see a hand. Is that Colton?
Yeah, I just got a quick question. What is the culture and environment like working at such a big company like USAA?
So it is. I've been out for 12 years now. Without a doubt, USAA has the best culture I've ever walked into in the corporate space. So I tell everybody they live what they preach. So it is more than those cheesy commercials you see. They truly mean it, serving those who serve. And we do. So you hear it every day. Hey, how can we serve our members better? And they follow that. But there's a lot of things that make up culture, right? So the diversity, inclusion, community outreach, all those little things add up to build a great culture. USAA certainly has one. I won't talk bad about any other companies on here just because I don't work with them, but not all of them have a great culture, and it's what it is. But I can tell you, USAA certainly does.
And what's the cost for that bad culture in the company? Or what do you feel is the cost for bad culture in the company?
Well, so if there's not a great culture in a company, you don't get as many passionate people. Passionate people are usually people who love what they do and would do it for free if it was allowed. Passionate people find a way to be fed by great cultures. So companies that have great cultures, people are trying their best to get in there. I think USAA, I always hear people, whatever I can do to get a job at USAA, and they work, at some of the biggest banks and insurance and companies in the world are trying to get here because of our culture.
But what do you feel is the cost for that good culture? Like, where does that stem from?
Well, again, I think it's living their mission. So our mission statement is serving those who serve. And we do that. You hear it every day. It's, hey, Shawn, what are you going to do today to make USAA better for our members? How are you going to do that? And it's a true thing. You hear it every day. I think that's the biggest thing is if a company lives to their mission statement, that kind of feeds into it. But culture is made up of so many things, so many things. Any other questions?
Colton, you had your hand up earlier. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I asked about the culture.
Okay. I guess my next, just to kind of lead on to something else, a new topic. So for interview processes, can you just talk a little bit about USAA? Because I know it's a popular company for people to apply to. Can you just kind of go over the process of USAA, what they have from application to interview to final interview?
Yeah, I certainly can. So I will tell you, every company is a little different. But again, when you're looking at mid to large size companies, it's usually a 3-step interview process, sometimes even more. And you don't count the conversation you would have with the recruiter as a part of that interview process. It is generally the screening process, but here at USAA, it's generally 3-step interview process. You would meet with the team, which is a panel interview. Generally, it is video. Next would be with the hiring manager directly. If you're local to one of the hub areas, it would probably be in person. And then the last one would be with the senior level person, so the hiring manager's manager. And it's really just to kind of get a feel of who you are and what you bring to the team and what you bring outside of the job description. So what are those other things that you can add to this team that they're not generally looking for, but they might rely on you to do because you offer it?
Great, thanks for that summary, Shawn. All right, if nobody else has questions, we can close out a little early. Fawn, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just to end, everyone, again, if you don't use LinkedIn, start using it. I'm telling you, it will make a world of difference for you. Connect, find a mentor out there in the corporate space or civilian space to help you transition. Transitioning is not easy at all. And then once you get into a role, don't get frustrated because things are going to be completely different. For me, when I first transitioned, the hardest thing for me was going into work and seeing one of my peers tell the manager or the manager's manager they weren't going to do something. It blew my mind. I absolutely what? Is this a thing? And then people not showing up. People just don't go to work. And you're like, I had to do PT with the flu at 6 a.m., but people weren't showing up to work. When you transition, try to let all that go. Just remember that whatever you do that day, there's nobody going to be shooting at you. There's nobody going to be trying to end your life doing what you're doing. So do it with as much passion as you can, love. And if you do that, you're going to grow quickly. You're going to move quickly because you're going to be seen and you're going to be heard. And that's what I'll end with is, transition is truly hard. It's hard to make that move. Then once you get there, it's hard to stay because it's not the same. But, I wish everyone here luck. I am definitely a resource. I shared my information. Definitely reach out to me if you have questions. I am, as you can tell, very blunt about the whole process because there's no sidestepping it. If I tell you, oh yeah, it'll be great, it's not going to be. It isn't. It's hard, and I want to be helped or to be able to help, and I'll point you in the right directions. So thank you guys for listening. I do hope that something I shared will be helpful to you. And again, if you need something, I'm here. If I can't answer it, I'll point you to someone who can.
All right.
Really
once again,
appreciate that, Shawn. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you.
All right, Fawn. I think that's it for the day.
Okay.
Do you have any other announcements to make before we got the
Um,
weekend?
No, I thought there was something Brenna wanted me to pass on. I think everybody got their videos done. Their top 10 list. Everybody's still working on those. Or for the things that you haven't gotten completed, just continue to work on those and try and have them uploaded to wherever they need to go, so that stuff can be reviewed. As always, if you need assistance or help with anything, you can always chat with us, online, offline, however you want to do it. But of course, it's the weekend. Next week being the holiday time, but we'll get started on Monday. And I think we go through Wednesday, I believe, is the last session for next week before you break into the holidays. Thursday. But otherwise, I don't have anything else for you guys today, guys and girls, unless you have something for us, but enjoy your weekend.
Yep. I just have one quick thing. Sorry to everybody on the tech people who was expecting the review today. I got more of a rundown from John, and he's sorry he couldn't make it out, but he'll make it up to you guys on Monday and do the review sessions with both sides of the tech cohort. All right. Well, you guys enjoy your weekend. Like I said, I think I talked to you guys Wednesday. Try to take one of those review tests over the weekend as you have time, just to kind of see where you're at in the process. Okay. All right, take it easy.